You're listening to Following On here on talkSPORT 2 with me, Neil Manthorp, along with former England fast bowler Steve Harmison. And we've got another busy show for you. We'll react to the news that Jimmy Anderson is set to become Sir Jimmy Anderson. And we'll also hear from newly appointed England white ball captain Harry Brook. Yorkshire spinner Dom Bess will join us to reflect on his century that helped them beat Worcestershire by over 500 runs at Headingley. And we'll round up the other big stories from Division 1 and Division 2. Chetan Narula will join us to recap on the week's action from the IPL, and we'll look at some of the other week's other big stories, big and small. So plenty to come over the next hour. This is Following On. Right, it was announced last week that legendary England fast bowler Jimmy Anderson will receive a knighthood in the ex-Prime Minister's resignation honours list. I didn't know there was such a thing. I didn't know that Prime Ministers prepared an honours list on their way out the door. But Harmy, will this mean a lot to Jimmy? I mean, I presume it will. Do you know, is he a big royalist?
I'm not sure. I would imagine it will. Now he's finished, and now he's not got in the 100, and unless he gets a wild card pick. But I mean, it should mean a lot to him. I'm sure it does. I'm sure it means a lot to his wife and his kids and his mum and dad, who are he's come from a special family as Jimmy Anderson. Mum and dad are wonderful, wonderful people, and it's for them as well because of what the knighthood means. So yes, I'm sure he's proud. He deserves it. Whether you like these or you don't, there's a lot of people who don't like honours list. A lot of don't like the titles or the letters after their name, or should it be going to sports and this, that, and the other. That's a different argument. Jimmy Anderson has been acknowledged for what he was, a great of the game, not just in England, of the whole game and the history of the game. Jimmy Anderson, in 100 years' time, people will still be talking about him, and that's why he's being recognised in such a way. So, yes, for me, he fully deserves it. For what other knighthoods has been given out in the game, Jimmy does deserve it. Now he's finished with the international game. I'm sure he's not got long left. I can't see him playing for another 3 years. But if he does play for another year at least and sees his days out at Lancashire, Sir Jimmy Anderson is going to bowl at Old Trafford from the Sir Jimmy Anderson end for one last time. And for me, for everything he's done for Lancashire, for England, I think he deserves all the recognition he gets, and that he don't get any bigger than a knighthood. So yeah, congratulations to Jim.
I can't remember the last time we were talking about honours lists. It was a couple of years ago. Can't remember who got the gong then, but I think you and I firmly were in agreement that it's the postman with 50 years of service to a remote village in the Cumbrian hills, and yeah, someone who's taken 700 Test wickets. I think they're the gongs that appeal to us, aren't they, rather than captains of industry and that sort of thing. But
absolutely,
I mean, he says he wants to play till he's 45.
Yeah, good luck to him. I mean, good luck to him. I mean, he still looks amazing. He still looks $1 million. As you get older, the calf injuries keep coming. But I was watching him on a Instagram post the other day that he's bowling off a couple of steps. He'd be back towards the back end of this block. Good for him. He's got the hunger of the game. I was never worried about Stewart. I was never ever. I mean, they're going as their careers were going. I was never worried about where Stewart was going, career path. He was destined for TV. I mean, Stewart was a proper studier of the game, spoke articulately very, very well. He was made for the camera in front of it, where Jimmy was a little bit more reserved, a little bit more quiet, somebody who didn't really chase the attention of the limelight. And I was always concerned where Jimmy was going to fit in after the game, because I didn't see him commentating. You see him coaching now, and I probably see him more coaching than I do for than that. But the financial rewards in that is obviously not that great. So it'll be interesting to see what happens when he does eventually have enough and finish and walk off, whether he does go into a coaching role. We joke about him going in the 100. I would rather have seen him coach 100 side. ECB try and push and make sure that he was assistant coach this year and coaching one of the franchises next year, like Andrew Flintoff is, because that's how we get our best coaches. We get our best coaches in the system to be head coaches, especially in sort of franchise, in this franchise competition we own. So instead of Jimmy Anderson 43 being, a possible wild card pick or in the draft, I'd rather have seen him go and coach assistant coach Manchester Originals this year, with a view that he was going to be coach of Manchester Originals next year. And then he creates an environment. Because in the franchise world, you don't coach. It's not about technicality or anything like that. It's about, creating an environment, building a plan. And for me, that's how we're going to get our next best coaches, because that's the world we live in now. And I'd rather see Jimmy be assistant coach with a view of being a coach next year rather than playing. You'll probably not thank me for that, but that's where I would rather see Jimmy go down that road if he wants to be a coach like what he is now in with Brendan McCullum's team.
All right, staying with England, but the current generation. Let's hear now from the new white ball captain, Harry Brook. Last week, he caught up with talkSPORT's cricket editor, John Norman, and outlined his aims for the white ball teams.
Harry, congratulations, England captain. That must be, it must just still sound so amazing, really. It must have been a proud moment when you got the call.
Yeah, it's a very proud moment, and I'm very honoured to take this side forward. Yeah, my family are very happy, and everybody's very proud of me back home.
talkSPORT were in New Zealand. We've covered a lot of your cricket over the last couple of years. Those innings at Christchurch and Wellington will live long in the memory. Is that how you're going to go about your game, trying to lead from the front with runs coming from the bat? Or is there going to be another side to Harry Brook, England captain?
No, yeah, that's ideal. If I'm scoring runs, that's pretty good for the side, I think. And and hopefully I can lead from the front on and off the pitch.
What was it like entering the England team for the first time? Because you, of course, are going to have to be the one that tries to bring some players through now. Were you immediately at ease in your surroundings? Is it something that came comfortably? How can you foresee dealing with players that might be struggling under the pressure?
Yeah, it's your first time in an England dressing room is a little bit daunting. You got the play. He sat in your corner or wherever you sat, and you look over to the side. There's Ben Stokes, Johnny Bairstow, Joe Root, who I'd played with a little bit here, but didn't really know them that well. But no, we're going to try and create a really a relaxed environment, and enjoyable environment, and make it as fun as possible.
That sounds like Brendan McCullum, of course, coach that you're very familiar with. What was the fact that he took over the white ball job a few months back? Do you think that was kind of a key part in you deciding that, yep, you can do this?
I get on really well with Baz, and I have done over the last two and a half years, and I think he's an amazing bloke to work alongside, and I'm sure he'll help me along the way.
What about the way you're going to be approaching cricket now? Because we've spoken to you before games. We have hours to fill, and the journalists have got thousands of pages to print. We may overcomplicate things on occasion. And when we've spoken to you before games, you've been very much, well, I'll kind of just see how it's playing when I get there and adapt to the circumstances and the pitch and the whatever. Are you going to change your approach now? You're going to be, studying the pitch a little bit more in depth, maybe taking some advice on what to do if you win the toss, that kind of thing? Or does it just come naturally to you?
Yeah, I think that just comes naturally, really. I think you have a look at the wicket before, and I'm no cricket pitch connoisseur or whatever you call it, but most of the time in white ball cricket, they're good wickets. You very rarely get a shocking pitch in white ball cricket, so I think we just got to go out there and nail the way that we want to play, and just think about ourselves for now.
What about a message to some of those players that are playing county cricket or white ball cricket on the county circuit who haven't had that call up yet, haven't had that call? If you were to give a message to them, what kind of person or brand of cricket are you looking for? Or is it just about scoring runs, taking wickets, and if you do that, you get a call up?
I think I want aggressive players, I want competitive players, and I want people that are 100% committed to what we're trying to achieve, which with the bat is to go out there, put the best bowlers under pressure from their best balls, look to dominate them, be able to manipulate the field throughout the innings and score big runs, score match-winning contributions. As a bowler, I want them to be able to work towards different modes of dismissal for different batters and have a plan for different batters to be able to get them out. And I want them to be able to bowl to any field, any situation, any dimension, and have the white ball skills that most bowlers require these days.
Have you spoken to Joss at all since the news came through? I mean, I imagine one of the the big things for you is to get him back scoring runs in the way that we saw, for much of his career, but maybe just dropped off a touch towards the last year or so of his captaincy.
Yeah, he started very well in the IPL as well. So yeah, hopefully we can get him to top form and playing the way he does, because he's unstoppable when he's playing well.
And what about your Yorkshire teammates? Because you can hear some of them shouting out words of encouragement from the dressing room.
I'm
I mean,
sure
he's suddenly the most popular man in the dressing room. They know if they score runs or take wickets in front of you, they might jump to the front of the queue.
Yeah, there's no player who's not available for selection really. So I think you just got to go out there and do what I've said in them last 3 comments, and try and prove your point and get in the side. Brilliant
stuff. Well, congratulations and good luck.
Thank you.
That's Harry Brook talking to our boss, cricket editor John Norman. Harmy, your overall impressions of the way that he spoke. He obviously had to do a huge amount of media, which can be quite a challenge for anybody. But the workload issue, he's set to play 11 tests, 12 ODIs and 15 T20s, maybe more, if he plays every game before the next T20 World Cup. It's a challenge. What do you make of what he said and how he sounded?
Yeah, he sounded like a future captain. He sounded like somebody who is going to say the right sound bites, the right buzzwords. He's been working with Brendan McCullum and Ben Stokes. I mean, everything I was expecting to hear from Harry, we heard. Desperate for him to do well. I am. I really hope he does well. Like I said on the show last week, he's got a chance to keep that environment and keep building from that environment of not having a separate captain, Joss Buttler, over there and coming in for the white ball stuff. You've now got the same message in the England camp, full stop. You've got Brendan McCullum at charge with Marcus and Paul Collins and Majid Patel as assistant coaches. And they're going to send a message through Ben Stokes, which Harry Brook's going to listen to. And then they're going to send a message through Harry Brook when coming off the bottom of the way Stokes leads his group. I think it's a good fit in the blueprint for where England need and want to be. So I have no problem with that. I mean, actions, a lot better than words, and that's what it comes down to. Our one-day cricket has been pretty poor in the last 12, 18 months. And I mean, actions is going to be a lot better than the words when it comes around. How he goes about managing his workload is going to be interesting. I mean, 12 ODIs and 15 T20s. There's wriggle room for the odd game off here, there and everywhere. The one thing there's no wriggle room for, no matter he's white ball captain or not, there's no wiggle room for. He has to play 11 test matches. If England want to beat India or Australia, England need a fully fit, focused Harry Brook in red ball cricket. And hopefully the white ball can give him energy when he goes and leads the team and he comes back into the ranks. So, fingers crossed that all goes to plan, because, like I said before, you can say what you want. You can be as bullish as you want to be in a press conference. But when the cold reality of the day is we've been poor in the last couple of tournaments. We haven't played white ball cricket well for quite a while now, and that needs to change. And now that book stops for Harry.
I can't help thinking that the decision about when to play and when to rest or when to have a break should be made for him. I know that he's a strong character and he's a strong personality, but anybody who comes into a job like England captain, white ball captain in this case, is going to be reluctant to say, I think I need a break. Can I skip these? Can I have a break there? I could do with a week at home. And I think that, if it is a question of workload management, I do think that, and they're exactly the right people to do it, Brendan McCullum and Rob Key. I think they should be not just making the decision for him or enabling him to make the decision, but they should be seen to be making it. You don't want Harry Brook to face up to the media saying, I decided to take a week off not to play the Ireland games or whatever it is. I think they need to make that decision and be seen to be making it, right?
Yeah, you're 100% right. And I think because of that, that's where the selection panel comes and takes more responsibility on that. You mentioned the Ireland stuff. Probably doesn't have to play against Ireland, when it comes to that. that series in Ireland at the end of September. It just depends. I think the flexibility comes from winning. If you're winning, you can do what you want. I mean, you can do what you want. Nobody will question. I mean, nobody's questioning Basball when they were smashing New Zealand and everybody out the park when Brendan McCullum first came in, and Johnny Bairstow was getting hundreds in middles of sessions and chasing 300, and Ben Stokes going to the toss and, we'll have a chase. Nobody's ever going to question that when you're winning. What they're going to question is when you start losing, that's when you get questioned. And it's about strong leadership. Ben Stokes has been very, very strong in his leadership in Test match cricket. Whether it's been going well or it's been going badly, Ben Stokes has stayed consistent with his message. And I think that's a lesson that Harry will need, because I think the up and downs of one-day white ball cricket is a lot more challenging than it is in the red ball game, because of the volume of games that you play. And sometimes you might have 4 or 5 players different from series to series because of obviously what else is going on in the world. So that I think England have to be flexible with. But I get what you're saying, and you're 100% right. Rob Key, Brendan McCullum, if there's a series where Harry needs to take a break, it's them that have to pull him out and not Harry putting his hand up and saying that. But I'm sure, and I mean, we've seen there's a lot of eyebrow raised at England's players leading into the Zimbabwe test. Ben Stokes isn't going to play for Durham. Root and Brooke are only going to play one game for Yorkshire. This is the right thing. As much as county members will be saying, Brooke and Brooke play a lot of cricket for Yorkshire. They love playing for Yorkshire. We're going to speak to Dom Bess later on in the show, and he will tell you when you have them around, it's unbelievable. They play a lot of cricket for Yorkshire leading into the start of the international summer. With them not playing, this tells you how important the next 9 months of English cricket it is, both red and white ball. So I think because the players aren't playing county cricket, it's not for 1 minute. I despise when people say we don't take any notice of county cricket. We're not interested in county cricket when it comes to picking England sides. I get that, and I think there is a little bit of that in ECB Towers. But I don't think this, and I know this for a fact. This is not the ECB bigwigs, McCullum, Stokes, Key, Luke Wright, Ben Stokes. They're not looking at county cricket and going, well, there's no point you playing there because it's not very good. I think they're prioritising this 9 months is going to be a roller coaster of emotions, of physical fitness, physical mentality, and everything that goes with playing England and Australia. We're not going to give you a chance to sort of burn yourself out. Some will argue you need to get into form. One game for Yorkshire against Warwickshire, and then the Zimbabwe test should be enough to get Joe Root and Harry Brook ready for India when they come around in June.
Okay, I thought one game was a bit skinny, but I bow to your superior knowledge. I thought if they were going to play 2 county games, then that would have been fair enough. I thought one was a bit thin.
They'll probably see the Zimbabwe as a county game.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, you just made that point, and yeah, exactly right. It is a test match, and it is a test match status, and Zimbabwe are on the up, but it is a warm-up game. Let's be honest. Okay, you're listening to Following On with me, Neil Manthorp, alongside former England fast bowler Steve Harmison. Next up in part 2, we'll have a look at a couple of the week's county championship games. Yorkshire bouncing back from an opening defeat against Hampshire to win by over 500 runs, and a bit of a thriller between Durham and Warwickshire. You're listening to Following On here on talkSPORT 2 with me, Neil Manthorp, along with Double Ashes winner Steve Harmison. And a reminder that you can now watch us on YouTube. Just head over to the talkSPORT Cricket YouTube channel and subscribe. Right, let's talk County Championship, Harmy. A couple of standout results. Let's begin with Adam Hollyoaks Kent. And I say Adam Hollyoaks Kent because I subscribe to the Kent County Cricket Club newsletter. And moments after their second consecutive victory, the newsletter was titled Adam Hollyoaks Kent win two in a row. So Kent have already anointed him as the owner of the team. He's head coach and he's made an absolutely wonderful start, but he didn't score the runs, of course. They were chasing 316 against Middlesex, and Ben Compton and Tawanda Moyeye. Do you know 7 years ago that Tawanda Moyeye was announced as Wisden's schoolboy cricketer of the year, qualified for England. Anyway, he and Ben Compton scored the majority of the runs there, although Zach Crawley showed some welcome form with 58 off 66 balls. So there's that result. Kent looking to bounce straight back into Division 1, and an absolute thriller between Durham and Warwickshire, and Sussex also looking bang in form.
Yeah, Sussex. I mean, Sussex are the stand for me, the standout of the week, along with Yorkshire. And we're going to talk to Dom Bess about the Yorkshire 500 run win. So, I mean, other than that, Sussex. I mean, they've been on a I think on a path in the last 4 or 5 years where they hit rock bottom. I mean, they did. I mean, if you couldn't get any lower than rock bottom, I think Sussex were there. I mean, everybody, Matt Pryor, Chris Adams, everybody was hiring their sort of 10 pence in and saying Rob Andrews should be doing this and Rob Andrews should be doing that. And Paul Fabris went, no, we've got 15, 16 kids here. We'll bring a couple of overseas players in and we'll develop them. And them kids from 4 or 5 years ago are now developed and they're scoring runs and they're winning games. And what they've done is they've learned how to win games at the levels that they were going through. So, they've challenged to get themselves halfway up the second division, challenged to get themselves at the top of the first division, but the second division, but didn't get up. Then now they're getting up. And the momentum shift they've got from that is massive. And I've always liked young Haynes, Tom Haynes. I've always been impressed by him. A good week for him, 140, I think 141, 144 he got, something like that. But, I mean, has anybody scored more runs than John Simpson in first-class cricket in the last 12 to 18 months? He's been phenomenal since he's gone down to the South Coast. So, yeah, I'm not surprised. I mean, Somerset, it was one of them ones where you go, just win the toss. I mean, Lewis Gregory, I think Lewis Gregory's captain of Somerset, isn't he? And the bowlers are going, just win the toss. Just win the toss, please. We've just done 200 overs on Monday. I mean, we can't field again on Friday, surely. And he loses the toss. And, Sussex only got 294, but even still, it was a little bit of a chastening. So yes, well done to Sussex. I thought they were excellent. You look at Kent's result; that's another positive. Ticking the box for the Adam Hollyoak mentality of just complete and utter mind shift from being constantly beaten up, being constantly talked down to, being constantly sort of overlooked at being a little bit of a smaller county. And Adam's gone in there, put his chest out, showed his heavyweight qualities of I think making people feel comfortable in a dressing room and giving them belief. And I think that's what Kent have done on that. And we've been sitting here for a bit now, and I've been looking that way. And the reason why I've been looking that way is the game has just finished, and I've been watching the Durham Warwickshire game, and I switched it on at tea time. I watched a bit this morning, and I switched it on at tea time, and I mean, Warwickshire needing 329 to win on 90 for 5, and Durham of home and host, first win of the summer. And then by tea time, I'm thinking Warwickshire got a chance here, and Ed Bernard at the first ball after tea for 4, and Durham are out of it. I'm going, they're not winning here. He's going to get 100. And he got out, literally he got 100 and got out the next ball. And then Doggett got 2 and 2, 8 down, needing 45, 50, after 50, I think, needed 50, 2 wickets left. Durham still got a great chance. New ball due, next over, got a great chance, Rain and Potts. And Warwickshire getting themselves over the line. So fair play to Warwickshire, because I feared for Warwickshire at the start of the summer. And they're getting a quality win away from home and give them a huge amount of confidence, because Warwickshire are going to be the unlucky ones, aren't the Manners? Because all the England players are available, and Warwickshire are going to be the unlucky ones because they're going to play Yorkshire at Headingley with Root and Brook. So unfortunately for Warwickshire, I mean, they're probably the unluckiest team of this first round of block when the internationals become available, because they're going to come against Yorkshire's juggernaut of Rook, Brook, Bairstow, Milan. So they needed a win on the board and they've got one. So fair play and well done to them. It was a great game of cricket, though. A fantastic
fair play to them.
Yeah.
Fair play to Warwickshire for chasing 329.
Keep going,
But how about the declaration from Durham, who committed themselves? I mean, that gave them a chance. Not a great chance, but it gave them a chance. And, Durham could have played it, made it safe. No, they committed themselves to playing attacking cricket, and they did that, and they lost by 1 win.
100%. And you said it last week when we talked about Ackerman. Ackerman got back-to-back hundreds in the game, and if it wasn't for Durham's mentality and trying to get runs on the board and get runs on the board quickly, that Notts game last week would have petered out to potential draw. So Durham will stick with their principles. Ryan Campbell spoke brilliantly before the season, and he said, "This is the way we're going to play. We'll win more games than we'll lose." And I still think they'll win more games than they'll lose, keeping to that mentality. But they've come out on the sort of wrong side of two defeats in the first 2 rounds of games, because they've played some very, very attacking cricket. And what they've tried to do is they've risked losing to try and win a game. And unfortunately, both times they've lost it.
You're listening to Following On here on talkSPORT 2 with me, Neil Manthorp, along with former England fast bowler Steve Harmison. And if you've missed any of the show or you wish to catch up, you know what to do by now. Download the podcast from the Following On feed, available as always via the free talkSPORT app or wherever you get your podcasts. Right, as promised, we're joined live now by Yorkshire and England spinner Dom Bess after Yorkshire bounced back from defeat in the opening round of championship matches at Hampshire with a 504-run win over Worcestershire at Headingley to give Johnny Bairstow his first win as captain. And the man who's joining us now with a career best century. I don't know whether to describe you as night watchman, really, because you've always been able to bat. I mean, it's hardly a revelation, but it is a first 100, Dom, and I don't know, special feeling. You've got to reinvent yourself, haven't you, when you can't bowl spin, when you can't feel your fingers?
Yeah, it certainly is. Especially at Headingley at times, you have to try and do something different to get on the park. But I mean, interesting one really, because in terms of where the game was as well, we were quite far in front, and there was about 6 overs left. And when I say it was a pretty late call up to night watchman, I had no boots on when the wicket went, and Johnny came out of the viewing area at Headingley and said, "Right, you're in." I had nothing on, so I think he threw my chest guard down the. If you've been at Headingley, he threw my chest guard down the steps as I was trying to walk out to the grounds. But like I said, fortunately, I got through it, and then the opportunity came, and we wrapped it up yesterday, which was an amazing feeling, especially after the week before.
You mentioned Johnny there, Dom. How's he going? I mean, these first couple of games have been completely the opposite end of the spectrum. I mean, he must have been scratching his head at the end of last week thinking, what on earth have I done? And then this week, you win by 500. How is Johnny getting on?
Mate, he's great. You know, Bluey, he's got so much enthusiasm towards the group, and he's channeled so much energy. And it's been awesome. It's been amazing. Personally, for me, to have him around, and also as a group, I think in terms of how and where he and how he wants to play his cricket. Firstly, is obviously that aggressive mode that he likes doing himself, but also I think the channeled energy towards the club, and I think being around and really trying to push this year. You can see it within him, and I think it's amazing when you have someone like him who's obviously played 100 tests, 100 ODIs, countless moments in England shirt. I guess to have him around is always a positive, and I think you add the likes of Malla as well, and obviously we've got Livy. We've got some real senior figures alongside some real special talent. coming through, and you would know, Harmy, I think if you want to win things, you've got to have a real blend of that. And like you said, obviously it was polar opposites. First game, sort of we're up against it, and then this week really, I guess, pushed it home and had an excellent performance. I think having both contrasts, I think the consistency within the change room and obviously behind with the management in terms of having Mags around as well, it's been the same sort of message, and I think we've probably seen two very different results, and probably two very different results in terms of the fact that it's probably what we can potentially achieve, and also maybe a little bit of first game nerves that floated in. Hopefully they're done. So I guess hopefully we're moving forward in a pretty good direction. But Johnny's been awesome.
Talking of England shirts and Johnny, he's one of many players that we've had on this programme who always, talk about the fact that playing for England remains the ultimate motivation. And I know that you've got a big block of championship games coming up now and you want to do well for Yorkshire, but where do you see your future with England now? I mean, you still going to push hard. I mean, how do you reflect on the start of your England career, and were you discarded a bit too quickly?
No, because I think it's shaped me into who I am now. I've had some of the best memories ever, and to think that I was sort of 21, 22, 23 years old going into that, I think there's real positives to take. There's also real tough lessons, and I guess that was the amazing thing, because it is international cricket. It's elite. It's the best you can get, and I guess people don't realise, certainly at times, how tough five-day cricket is. Test cricket is the ultimate. Obviously, this man will, but it's the pinnacle, and I think that's given me the real hunger to try and get back there. But you've also got to be realistic. You've got to. My personal opinion is you've got to smash out runs and wickets for your club and get the next opportunity. Obviously, I think England in itself, they've probably gone down a different brand recently. But I still believe that if you're doing things well and you're winning, ultimately, that's the only recipe. And I think, again, we're fortunate to have people like Johnny and Mala around. They've played a lot of international cricket, and you can pick up so many pieces from them. So for me, if I'm honest, I mean, it's been 5 years since a lot of things changed. I mean, my last coach was obviously Silverwood, Chris Silverwood and Spoons. And when that fold, obviously, when Brendan McCullum came in and Stokesy, I was out, and to be honest, I hadn't performed for a couple of years, so I know where I sit. I've certainly got the love back for it. I mean, it's been so much fun, sort of start of this year. I personally think whatever, you're always striving to play for England. That's the goal. If you're not playing cricket to do that, then I think there's obviously some very different views on it. I've always wanted to play for England as many times for England.
And is it? I mean, now it helps now, Dom, that you're in the first division. You're a cricketer who wants to learn. We've seen that you got in, I would say, the international at a young age, but because of Yorkshire's troubles, you've been down in the second division. You play it headingly, like you say. You don't feel your fingers, and it's not the greatest place to bowl spin in the world. But now you're in the first division, and it just seems that we had a little sort of 2 minutes off air before there. The standard of cricket in this country now is getting better and better, especially in the Championship. That first division is now very, very strong when it comes to pitches, players, results, and everything that goes with it. The learning curve that you had in that sort of time you had in there, and you've had some, time of reflection. Do you think now first division cricket, playing in a big county, if I perform, I've got more of a chance to be seen and people know the temperament because I've already played international cricket?
Completely. That was the really interesting thing, sort of going actually down to Division 2. Yes, there's good teams and there's good players, but the caliber of players in Division 1, and I guess also the thing I've found is the pitches. At times they're more sporting, probably in different ways. So in terms of you as a cricketer, you really have to I guess, challenge your ability if that's bat with the ball. Like you said, at Headingley at times it might not spin. You might go down to Essex where they've got Simon Harmer, who's obviously, his stats speak for themselves. You go to Somerset where obviously I'm pretty familiar. They've got Leachy and Bash and obviously Vorney now who are doing wonders. You go all across the country and you have to challenge yourself. And I think if you do that well, I think everyone within Division 1 knows how tough it can be. And I think the calibre of player that you become, then obviously the next step is hopefully Test cricket. And then I think around Test cricket, then it's probably, from my experience, it's challenging different areas in terms of you're probably facing a lot quicker bowlers. The relentlessness is a long period, but I think you've got to get through those steps. That's my opinion. And like you said there, mate, I'm just super stoked to be in Division 1 with Yorkshire and really competing and actually having a really successful team. Because I actually, and I'm probably a bit biased, I think there's a lot of players in Yorkshire that we could see a lot of for England, hopefully. I mean, you had obviously Brookie, who's now become captain. You have those sort of calibre of players in Yorkshire. They're always in there, and it's just trying to get them out. And then obviously, always with a successful team, individually, you usually have a lot more success as well. So not only myself, but I think there's players and my peers that I think can really kick on as well.
So sorry, Dom. We need to go back to the 100. I feel like we've just brushed over this. So you've got David Milan and Johnny giving it a proper spank at the other end. You know, setting up the declaration. You know, talk us through your feelings. At what point did you think, hang on a minute, I could get 100 here?
It sounds silly, but in the morning I was thinking there was a great opportunity. I knew I had 2 hours to bat. And the ball was pretty cooked. And to be fair to the Worcester boys, they've had some serious toil over the past week or so. So I think if there's ever opportunities, I looked at that saying it was a big one. I walked out with Lively at first. I think he knows his stats pretty well. He was about 50. Yeah, I think he was about 40 away from 15,000. That's what he kept telling me. And he chipped one to the bowl and was fuming. I actually said to him, probably the only time I'd probably get the chance to bat with him, and obviously with a milestone around the corner. So that would have been nice. But then, like you said, Mala, I think I'll go back to it. The experience that we got in the change room, I think how Mala thinks about the game is phenomenal. There's no wonder why he's been so successful. I guess more white ball cricket as well, because of the way he tries to set things up, and I guess everything that's going through his head. And look, he said as well, obviously you're 70, 80. Jacob Duffy came on, actually tried to go some short stuff, and we were just talking about plans about how to score from that and get off strike and rotate and get 4 or 5 and over. So we've got, if we're looking forward in the game, more time to bowl them out. And we're fortunate we obviously did it in the day, but that was also the other plan. So there's quite a bit going on. And then obviously you're thinking, when you're sort of 70, 80, you're thinking about your 100. So I'm fortunate to have sort of those blokes around, but that was one big thing. I think I've had about 23, 22 50s. So there was a bit of a thing to like get it over the line. You talk about opportunity batting at 3. I mean, I will stick my hand up every time to do night watchman, but those opportunities don't really come around often.
Yeah, you Brent on Johnny's door and saying I want to bat higher and higher until I mean, I was never, ever wanted to be night watchman. No captain with half a brain cell would even contemplate me being night watchman. And I must admit, when the spinners were on, I'd always fancy my chances. But when the minute somebody started bowling too fast for me, that was my day over. And you're talking about, night watchman, it's a great opportunity to go higher. You look at what you've got coming up. You've got Durham coming up next. That'll be a tough game. Durham's chasing it at the minute. They're going to finish against Warwickshire and a grandstand finish on how that's gone. It's right down to the wire. You're going to be probably top of the table at that point. And then you got Warwickshire not long after that. And that you'll have Brook and Rooty back. And you mentioned Milan, you mentioned Bairstow, you've played international cricket, walking out the field probably at Headingley against Warwickshire with a former England captain, a current England captain. I mean, Yorkshire are back now, aren't they?
Yeah, I really do think they are. And I think mate, when you put it like that, when Ruti and Brookie come back, two of the best in the world, and you add the likes of Bluey in there, who everyone knows he loves proving a point, and for him to be Yorkshire captain this year, I think he's got a bit between his teeth, which is awesome. And then we're missing, like you're talking about Mala, and you add Livy in that, like who's also played international cricket and a real great for Yorkshire. Like that's really exciting, and I think that's where it's awesome because, like you said, you don't play cricket, you don't try and play the highest standard. I guess obviously you look to have fun, but you want to win things, and I think when you've got these guys around, it sort of gives you a real boost. But also that the great thing as well is, and you would know, Ruti loves playing for Yorkshire, and Harry does as well. I mean, Harry's sort of grown up. I guess the age that we've got in the change room now, it's all Brookie's mates, really, all his best mates, and he loves coming back. And I think certainly after what happened last year, obviously with his grandma, the best thing for him was probably to be back around his mates and playing cricket for Yorkshire. And every chance they get, they love coming back. But it's super exciting. Obviously, it's going to be tough leaving a couple of lads out, but I think everyone understands as well. If you want to win championship cricket, you got to have your best players. When you've got those, I guess those two, that everyone's got to be sort of understandable with that. And also great opportunity to pick brains again for 7 to 10 days with them around. And I think moving forward, like I've said before, we've got some real talent in our team at the moment, and to get another 10 days with those sort of guys is only sort of a positive for us.
Dom Bess, 107 maiden first-class century. Congratulations in Yorkshire's 504-run victory. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on, and very, very best of luck, and hope it warms up a bit for the rest of for this block of championship games.
Fingers crossed, mate. Cheers. All the best.
Yorkshire and England spinner Dom Bess. You're listening to Following On with me, Neil Manthorp, along with Durham Hall of Famer Steve Harmison. Next up, we'll round up the week's action from the IPL, or some of it anyway, with the top 6 teams separated by just a couple of points as the season begins to heat up, and there's another month and a half of it to come before we get to the knockout games. And of course, we'll bring you the final word. You're listening to Following On here on talkSPORT 2 with me, Neil Manthorp, along with the former #1 bowler in the world, Steve Harmison. And a reminder, you can now watch the show on YouTube as well. Just head over to the talkSPORT Cricket YouTube channel and subscribe. Right, time now to look back at some of the bigger stories in the IPL this week. And we'll hear from our Indian cricket commentator friend, Chetan Narula, who's been rounding up all the week's action with talkSPORT's Scott Taylor.
So, Chats, thanks for joining us again. Where do we start this week from the IPL? It's been another busy week in the IPL. Maybe Abhishek Sharma, because England fans would have saw him in the T20 series, of course, where he scored that century for India. And he's had a sort of lean start to the IPL, but sort of burst into life with that 141 off 55 balls.
Yeah, I think his lean start and Travis Head's lean start, I think that has been one of the key reasons why Sunrisers Hyderabad haven't had the best of starts to this IPL season. But look, you cannot really keep these ballistic openers quiet for too long. And when he did start scoring, there was just no end to it. Abhishek Sharma, I would say that was an era-defining knock from Abhishek Sharma. It takes me back to Brendan McCullum's 150-odd not out that he scored on opening night of the Indian Premier League back in 2008. That was an era-defining knock in itself. And I think T20 cricket has changed over the last 2 decades so much that now we are looking at scores of 240 being scored regularly, scores of 240 being chased down regularly. So T20 cricket has completely changed. And now, in sync with this new era, here comes another era-defining knock, and this time from an Indian batter. Abhishek Sharma has written his name down in the annals of IPL history, and wow, what a blistering knock, such power hitting.
I know. Sunrisers Hyderabad, 247 for 2, chasing it down with more than an over to spare as well. And that shows the talent in Indian cricket, because that's the beauty of the IPL, isn't it, Chetan? Because we see a lot of regulars, the likes of Rohit Sharma, Jasprit Bumrah and Virat Kohli. But every year, and I know Abhishek Sharma's been playing in the IPL for a few years now, but every year they unearth a gem in Indian cricket.
Yeah, I think that's very aptly put, because I was just thinking, when the IPL started, we are just about a third into this IPL season. I was just thinking, in the first week, with some decent performances, and those performances were not coming from your regular star players who were still, just trying to get into the IPL. Some of them had played 6 to 8 months of cricket, and there were injury concerns. They were missing a couple of matches, but the younger names or the unknown names were really coming up. And I was just wondering, if I have to put down the top 15 T20 cricketers in India today, I would have a lot of trouble. If I have to pick the Indian T20 squad for the next year's T20 World Cup, I would have to do a lot of thinking. So there's no dearth of talent. And I think there are a lot of domestic T20 leagues that are happening in the country, especially after the IPL, which feed into the IPL, which brings this talent into the IPL. And of course, you have the talent scouts from the 10 IPL teams across those leagues, across domestic cricket, and they are unearthing such talent. And you look at players, Abhishek Sharma, we just spoke about him. He is a product of that talent scouting. You look at Naman Dheer, you look at different players who've come across over the years, and then they have made it big in the IPL, and it becomes a quick way to get into that Indian team. Again, Abhishek Sharma, that has been the progression for him, hasn't it? So there's no dearth of talent. This is a stage, one of the biggest stages to perform in international cricket and get noticed by the Indian selectors. So yeah, Indian cricket as this time is really blessed, and the IPL has worked like a charm.
Let's turn attention now to RCB. Let's talk about their big win on Sunday, 9-wicket victory over the Rajasthan Royals. There's always been talk of RCB. Can they do it? Will this finally be their year? But it looks like they found the formula at the top with Phil Salt and Virat Kohli. Kohli started off fantastically well. I think 3 half centuries in the first 6 games, accompanied by Phil Salt as well. So England fans will be interested in see how they're doing. Plus the power of Padikal. Plus, they've got the experienced bowling lineup in Bhuvi Kumar and Josh Hazlewood. Will this finally be the year, Chetan?
I think it's a little too early to say, will this be the year that RCB breaks the jinx? I think they are doing really well. What they have done is they've taken those away matches. They've recognized the need to win the away matches. You have 7 away matches.
Yep.
RCB need to win at least 5 of the 7 away matches. And why I say that is because Chinnaswamy is not your typical home ground. It doesn't give RCB that home advantage. Even if you score 220 there, chances are there's more than a 50% chance that you're going to end up losing that game. And especially in the previous IPL season, that was the case. Of course, this time around, the RCB bowling lineup is really exciting. But again, you need to target those away matches, away points. If you get those 5 away wins, or even if 4 away wins, I think that could really do the trick for RCB. But having said that, when I looked at the RCB squad, once the auction was over, I'm not an RCB fan, but even then, I was actually very excited, because I think I'm not going to go out on a limb and say that this is a title-winning RCB side. But I think there are enough elements out there which, if added together well, if gel well together, they can easily make it to the knockouts. In the knockouts, it's anybody's game on that particular day. But they can easily make it to the knockouts in dominant fashion, in dominant style. And I think they are gelling well together. Lots of pieces and parts have come together, performing well. Their bowling attack, Josh Hazlewood, immense buy, immense purchase. Bhuvneshwar Kumar, he's giving them that opening spell. Krunal Pandya, my God, what a purchase. I think if you have to talk about a buy of the auction, especially from an RCB perspective, that's Krunal Pandya. Left arm spinner gets you some crucial runs lower down the order. But the passion that he showcases in the game, the thinking hat that he has on at all times, he's thinking very quickly on his feet. He's a solution finder. RCB
Yeah,
letting
yeah.
go of Yuzvendra Chahal, they did not find a solution finder, wicket-taking spinner. Now they have one in Krunal Pandya. And of course, Phil Salt at the top of the order. He's been exceptional. It takes off some pressure from Virat Kohli, because Phil Salt, when he gets going, he gives you that quick fire start, and then Virat Kohli can just do his thing. You remember that last game that they won, Phil Salt, energetic start, and then Kohli was just watching at the other end, and then once Salt was out, he was doing his thing. He struck another half century, took them to the finishing line. So I think that opening partnership is gelling well. Rajat Patidar as the captain, that was a big surprise before the IPL season began, but I think he's really, really done well. Jury's still out, I would say. But I think the first target for RCB is get into the knockouts. And when I say get into the knockouts, don't qualify third or fourth. Qualify first or second, so that even if you have a bad day, you have a second chance. And I just think that they are getting into the knockouts. After that, it's anybody's game on the day.
And just finally, Chetan, we normally like to end on a good story with the podcast every week with a final word. But I think a good story to highlight here is Karen Nair. It's 7 years since his last IPL half century, 3 years, I think, since his last appearance. He's been in phenomenal form domestically in India as well. He's won a Ranji Trophy. He scored a bucket load of runs in the 50-over competition as well. So just a word on Karen Nair, because England fans will remember him, I think, for that triple hundred. Is it 2016 against
2016.
England?
Yeah, I was there.
So 9 years on now, he's still making headlines in the IPL. What a story. 89 of 40 balls for the Delhi Capitals.
I'll tell you what, when he scored that triple hundred, I was covering that game in Chennai, and that was an amazing knock. Of course, he scored a triple hundred. That's always an amazing knock. And then this domestic season, I was doing commentary on a couple of those Vijay Hazare 50-over games that he was playing, and he scored those two knocks. One of them was 100. And of course, he had 5 consecutive hundreds this time in that ODI competition.
Oh, he had a ridiculous average, didn't he? I don't think he got out at all.
No, in the first 6 games, he didn't get out at all. So it's a fantastic story. It's one of those stories that the sport gives you, cricket gives you, and you think, okay, this is where you draw inspiration in real life as well. That, look, if sometimes things just don't align your way, don't just give up. Maybe try a little bit more, try a little harder. And I think you never know which door really opens. And I think that is the story of Karun Nair here. He was on the verge of giving up. He sent out that amazing tweet that, "Dear cricket, please give me another chance." Then he goes and plays some county cricket, make some noise there. Then he gets picked up by Vidarbha, the domestic side, because he was ready to leave Karnataka. He was not getting those opportunities, not scoring those runs. So he goes to Vidarbha, becomes their captain, Ranji winning season, big run scoring across formats. He gave that extra time, extra effort, one last push to making a name in the game once again. And the game said, okay, now's your chance. Now's your time. The door is open for you. And let me just say this, after so long you're playing IPL, scoring a half century, and you're taking on Jasprit Bumrah, it was, it just, to me, it says the stars have aligned finally for Karun Nair. And I know it's a little too early. We're still halfway through April, and there's an England tour coming up. India touring England for 5 test matches. Let me go down on a limb and say, I am going out on a limb and saying this. Put Karun Nair on that plane to England. He spent last 2 summers playing county cricket. He has runs under his belt. This is a feel-good nature to his cricket at the moment. If Ajinkya Rahane, on the basis of some IPL form, was picked for the last WTC final against Australia, I think Karun Nair has done enough to get on that plane to England. Let him be part of that test side once again.
That was Chetan Narula in conversation with our producer, Scott Taylor. And you can watch the full video out now on the talkSPORT Cricket YouTube channel. Right, Harmy, quickly on to other points of interest and news stories. The ICC have finally made something happen with regard to Afghanistan and the women cricketers of Afghanistan. They've formed a dedicated task force, which I don't know about the description of that, but it's designed to help The Afghanistan women cricketers who were exiled from the country since the Taliban took over. It will offer advanced coaching, tailored mentorship, and world-class facilities to help them reach their full potential. I mean, I really hope it's not too little, too late, and every effort that is made um, should be applauded. It is certainly late. Let's hope it's not too little.
Yeah, let's hope it's not too little. Yeah, it's definitely late. And I think, fair play to all the campaigners who have been banging that drum. I can think of Alison Mitchell from the BBC. I can think of many others who have highlighted what's needed to be done. And it's now hopefully going to get done. I'd love them. Honestly, I'd love them to just play under the ICC banner. I mean, ICC are not much use for anything other than organising events. The rest of their schedule, what else do they do? Because they don't pull people in or try and shape the global game. I think they just let people get on with it and do what they want, and that's unfortunately why we're potentially in the situation with Afghanistan. So it's good that the ECB, BCCI, and the Australian Cricket Australia are getting involved. Why can't they play under the ICC banner? I really don't understand why they can't play as the ICC. So the ICC are the ones that give them a handout, don't they? So ICC, you know more about this than me, man. So I'll throw it back to you. The ICC give nations a pot of money to basically to exist, and they're from their from the revenue streams, the whatever they come in from the different tournaments they have. I know they hold it back from Afghanistan for half of it because of the women's doesn't get utilized. So why can't the ICC just use that money that they hold back and have an Afghanistan women's team just play under the ICC banner, and they can still live in Australia, they can still play and come together for tournaments, but obviously with not the wrath of the Taliban.
I think
is that too simple?
Well, you're probably thinking of the refugee team that features in the Olympic Games. I mean, the point about them is their identity. I mean, you want them to be flying the Afghanistan flag. I understand exactly what you're saying, but I mean, the question is longevity as well. I mean, how do you continue this? How do you keep supporting the Afghan? Yes, the current generation, but I mean, are they going to try and assist future generations of Afghanistan cricketers to leave the country and join the team in exile? And how, in fact, are they going to play any cricket in Afghanistan? It's a really,
while
really...
While the Taliban's there, they're going to have something in place, because if not, are we close to Afghanistan being thrown out of cricket full stop? And I'm not talking about the women's team because they're already out. I'm talking about the men's team. And that men's team is a talented bunch of players. And that's something I think would be a real shame to cricket. Russia out of the Olympics, out of all world events because of what Russia is and what she stands for, and the war with Ukraine and everything like that. And everybody's adamant that this is the right thing to do. Now, hold on. If this is as severe as what people are talking about, and I think it is, I think it really is the way the women's team has been just sort of left and put to one side. And all of a sudden, what happens with the men's team? Jonathan Trott's built a very, very talented unit there. And some will argue, and rightly so, I think, that they have to be really, really considered that they don't play any more international cricket because of what's happening with, because what you have to have as an affiliated member of the ICC. Afghanistan don't qualify in that front.
Oh, I wasn't prepared for this, Army. I didn't realise you were going to go down this road. I mean, it's a medieval regime in terms of human rights and that sort of thing. But as you say, the question I always ask, and I don't advocate anything either way, I'm not qualified to, but the question I always ask is, if you ban Afghanistan, men and women, from international cricket, how then are you going to ever shine a light on the appalling human rights record and
Yeah.
the deprivation for women and girls in that country. And it's just a question I'm not qualified to answer,
Qualified,
but
yeah.
I am qualified to ask. All right, let's move on. We're running out of time as we always do. Let's talk about the PSL. It was really interesting that they decided to go head to head with the IPL, wasn't it? And you know, I mean, are they the second best? James Vince, the overseas players, do they feel like they're they've been pushed into the sidelines? I mean, does the PSL feel second best? James Vince made an incredible 101 off 43 balls to help the Karachi Kings chase 235 with 4 balls to spare. David Willey didn't have a great outing, 2
No.
overs for 40. But it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, you know, you look at. I think I'm going to answer my own question. I think that many of the overseas players in the PSL are comfortably amongst the best in the world. They don't look and feel like a second string to me. And I just think it highlights the vagaries of the auction system. You know, IPL teams want certain things, not particularly certain players. It's all. Yeah, I mean, that PSL looks like a really good competition.
It does look like a good competition, and I mean, there's so many avenues I can go down. Which, you know, for me, man, we haven't got enough time, and I'm very good at going down blind ones. But the PSL, yeah, going to get. Look, let's put cards on the table. As much as I love Pakistan cricket, and I want them to be at the top table, this is I don't think they'll ever compete with, unfortunately, with the IPL. India have got the muscle; they're the ones flexing them. And unfortunately, yeah. And I think when I spoke about it earlier in the show about Jimmy Anderson in the 100 and being a coach, you look around the world, not many English coaches, very, very few English coaches. There's a lot of Kiwi coaches, a lot of Australian coaches, a lot of South African coaches. So when it comes and directors of cricket in the franchise tournaments, there's not many English coaches. And I think what I see with the IPL is the overseas players tend to come from the area of where the coach or the director of cricket, managing director of them franchises, they know where they're coming from and know who they are. Hence why it's great to see Ravi. Over the moon to see Ravi Bopara, even though he ditched us last week and he didn't come on the show. It's great to see Ravi in charge of Karachi. I mean, it was great to see Goffey. I don't know what the full ins and outs of Goffey not fulfilling at Lahore. But all of a sudden, if you get them in, then you get English players into that tournament and there's a knock-on effect. I just think the English coaching system needs a whole shake-up and a revamp because we need to get our coaches coaching around the world. Because if we get our coaches coaching around the world, we get our directors of cricket around the world, we get English players playing in the big tournaments, in the IPL. We've got a lot of playing in the IPL. But I think we could have a lot more. So I think the PSL has got some fantastic overseas players. A few of them have been in the IPL and had their day, and they've now gone to, probably the second competition. And there's a lot of English players in that PSL because I think there's a little bit more of a connection between England and Pakistan than there is between England's coaching system and the IPL, because there's not many English directors of crickets and there's not many English coaches involved in the IPL.
A couple of big stories in the women's game. Talking of overseas stars, Elise Perry has joined Hampshire for 6 T20 Blast games and 2 one-day cup matches. And Susie Bates, the great Susie Bates, becomes Durham's first overseas player.
That's a great sign for Durham. If you look at Durham over the years, we've always had fantastic overseas players. The very, very first day Durham became a first-class county, we had Dean Jones, the great late Dean Jones. And, from then, the likes of David Boone, Chanda Paul, you name them, we've had some huge hitters. Mike Hussey, we've had some big hitters. So, Durham have, like I said a couple of weeks ago, Marcus North and Tim Bostock, they got the men's business out of the way very early, back end of last season. And then probably from just before Christmas on, they concentrate on getting Durham's women's franchise into the best shape it possibly can be. And what a signing. I mean, the girls at Durham we've got no idea what's about to hit them because she is a superstar. She's been a superstar in the game for so long. They'll learn a hell of a lot off Susie Bates for the length of time she's here. So that's great to see.
Okay, there's a couple of great items to the final word that I've had to discard because we don't have enough time. But I'll just, on the subject of women, we shall end off, Harmy, with two women, one of whom you know very well, Hayley Matthews, the West Indies captain.
Yeah.
And one who you may never have heard of, Joanna Child. Hayley Matthews, I don't know whether you got my note about Joanna Child, but let's start with Hayley Matthews. The West Indies captain took 4 for 56 and scored 114 off 113 balls. But the West Indies still lost by 11 runs to Scotland in the Women's World Cup qualifier. And so this is more a story about Scotland, actually, than it is about Hayley Matthews in the West Indies. What a fabulous performance from Hayley Matthews. But Scotland just continue to be on the up and up. They qualified for their first T20 World Cup and were a little overwhelmed, looked a little out of their depth, but it hasn't put them off. And the women's game continues to grow and grow in Scotland.
Yeah, it's growing massively in Scotland, and that's the thing that annoys me about, you know, the English cricket. Whenever things are awarded and games are awarded, it's like we didn't have an Ashes Test match north of Nottingham a couple of years ago, and it's like, forget it's, you know, the country doesn't end at Leeds, it doesn't end at Durham. I mean, Aberdeen, you know, the furthest point north, it's in Scotland. There's a hell of a lot of cricket fans in Scotland. Come down on the train to Chelsea Street on a daily basis to watch the game, and they love the game. Kyle Kurtzer, a great friend of mine, who captained Scotland for a long period of time, works in the women's game now, and he talks about how good that the progression of the women's game is up north of the border. So, yeah, I mean, if you get 4 for 50 and 114 and you get beat, I mean, that tells you that the opposition must have been good. But I seen this story. I seen it online the other day of Joanna Child, who made a T20 debut. And I was like, right, I can guarantee this is coming up in the last word because manners will have it from me.
Yeah, well, she made her debut, T20 international debut for Portugal in a 3-match series against Norway at the age of 64. And she's not the oldest debutant in the women's game. She's actually the second oldest. There was a lady 2 years ago who played for Gibraltar on debut at the age of 66. But a lot of people say to me, you know, like, why does every nation have official T20 status in the women's and the men's game? Every single one of the affiliate nations has official T20 status. So you get records. Somebody will make us 140 in a T20 international for Sri Lanka against Zimbabwe, and then it turns out that it's actually only the 6th highest score because players from countries like Portugal and Norway and Gibraltar and the African nations all get T20 status. It doesn't bother me in the slightest.
No.
I love it.
Yeah, I'm with you. I was in me and Hoggard did a dinner in Guernsey last week. Was it 2 weeks ago? Was it 2 weeks ago? I was there, and on the night before the dinner, I presented the caps from that had played ODI cricket for Guernsey. I think there was 47 caps going back to COVID time when I think they were given status, and each one, I think there's only about 30 people in the room, and each one got their cap from an old fast bowler who represented England now and again. And they talked about each one was given, you know, when they read their name out, when they made their debut, their best, career best and all that. And it was a tiny little room from a tiny little country. But when I walked away from it, I was so proud that I fortunate to play in one of the big nations, playing the big series like the Ashes, because we as in the 35 people that were in the room that got a cap, we did exactly the same thing. We played a game that we loved and we played for our country. And it doesn't matter whether you're playing for Guernsey or you're playing for England in the Ashes, it's still the same. And I'll always go back, and we'll always go back, Manners, because we love the game. And you go back to Mohammed Nabi, the amount of wins he's had against different nations. And again, comes back to the story about Afghanistan and what Afghanistan are and where they've come and where they could be if they're not held back by what's going on in their country, unfortunately, where they came from the very bottom and they're at the big table. And that is the dream for probably everybody at Guernsey, everybody at Portugal and Norway. And if you're making your debut at 60, if you're making your debut at 64, it just shows you the game does get, you know, a far reach, and it's a beautiful game.
And in that 15, I'm going to say 15 girl squad, because I all the girls refer to themselves as girls, however old they are. But the youngest member of that squad was just 15, which is remarkable. You've been listening to Following On talkSPORT 2 with me, Neil Manthorp, along with former England fast bowler Steve Harmison. We'll be back at a similar time next week to look back at another week of county championship action. But for now, this has been another edition of Following On.